to review the November and approve the November minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So I've reviewed them. They look great to me. But we can't do that approved part, right? So
so that would just be tabled until the following month.
Okay. So, and there's nothing to even ask anybody about then, right? Unless anybody has comments on the notes.
Right.
Right. Review and discuss the 22 budget, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, fiscal year 23.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, got it. Yeah. Does anybody have any comments on the budget that they'd like to share? And anything? Or
How does it compare to prior? Do we have any examples of prior budgets? And because that was all.
So I added a little bit to this budget, but not significantly, and I apologize because it didn't. I do have a printout here. I think I increased your meeting supplies a little bit, maybe by $200 or $300, and I also increased printing and binding. And the Board of Finance has asked departments to come in at a zero budget. I don't know that they'll actually ask them to implement zero budget, but they're asking them to come in at zero and talk about things that they would have to cut. So I increased your budget. I would be surprised if those increases go through.
Right. So when you say you mean zero increases, right?
Right, zero increases, and that includes staff raises. So assuming you have staff in your department, you would need to cut an appropriate amount to allow those staff to have their contractually obligated raises.
Yeah, because in the past we were like sitting around 4-ish, right? Like I think I don't
Yeah, it was close to 4, maybe 3,500.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So do we need to make a motion for anything, Betsy, or is it just more like, okay, here it is, we've reviewed it, we've talked about it?
So ideally there would be a motion, but it's not required. And since there's no quorum, you can't right now.
Okay.
But really, if there's any feedback on, things to change, I would love to hear it. It's due to the finance department before your next meeting. So people could also, email me, but it would be preferable to have a group discussion if there are thoughts on it.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I don't have any special thoughts. I mean, it sounds like Betsy's tried to add a little bit where she thought appropriate if possible, and we'll see what happens. But anybody else have any comments on it or beyond that? No? Okay.
I mean, I was just, I mean, these all seem like the standard issue, items that we, use for.
Do. Right.
Is there any research that we have conducted in the past, or that we might want to contemplate? When I look at the totals, I mean, there's, and again, really kind of coming in, not knowing what the history has been, but we talked about exploring with some of the commercial real estate developers, some of those opportunities. I don't know if that leads to some sort of a focus group type of a thing where there might be some investment required. Just throwing it out there based on our prior conversations.
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
If we came up with sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, and like I think in the past we've also kind of just reallocated things from one bucket to another when we were putting together some of the mailings and such. But I was just gonna say, like, maybe we should just try to keep it flat and go back to where we were, just as a gesture of keeping things flat like, all the other commissions, departments, etc.
So you're in favor of actually taking out the small increases that Betsy put in, and just because of the request from finance?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's, all, all departments and such. I mean, they're trying to keep things tight. So, I mean, it's a huge issue in town. So, they could. I mean, we have a pretty, it's a relatively very very modest budget,
Yes.
comparatively speaking. So, we're not moving the needle. But again, just as more along
Right.
the lines of being providing a good gesture.
Yeah, I hear you. I would actually be fine with that if does anybody else have an opinion on that? Yeah. Betsy, what if we just kept, I mean, I appreciate you trying to increase it, but given that, if that's, could we simply just go with the old numbers, or is the difference so insignificant that it's not going to, make a difference for the?
It's really hard to say. So I've got the current year's budget pulled up in front of me right now. I've requested 700 for postage. That's the same. Printing and binding is 2,000 in this year's budget. I requested 250. Professional development and conferences and dues are the same. And meeting supplies, I increased from 500 to 1,000. With the assumption that you'd be holding more events, sort of like what Scott was saying. But again, given the uncertainties of COVID, maybe you won't be doing that.
Right. What I mean, hypothetically speaking, like say we start making like tons of progress and getting a lot of interest from local businesses on doing things, and we need to we spend our budget, and we put like an ad hoc request in for like additional money, or is that not even what?
You could put in a request, but it's highly unlikely that it would be granted, especially if it was not towards the end of the budget year.
Right.
And, or, it all depends on snow, really, is what it comes down to, is what is winter going to look like, because that's where
Right. Yeah.
so much of our overtime goes, and it makes a massive difference in what our budget looks like.
Gotcha. What about, I mean, I know sometimes there are departments that don't spend their budget and they can give some money back. So, I mean, we could always try to keep that as a goal.
Well, and historically, EDC has not spent all of their funding.
Right. I don't know. I mean, you want to like maybe, try to aim for, improving our, our meetings with, try to be more active with that, increase that a little bit, maybe like split the difference between 3450, 4450, and give us that. And then if if we're still virtual and there's a lot of snow, and then we could not spend it all and give some money back. What do people think about that?
Yeah, so leave it as Betsy's placed it, and understand that if we don't use it, or there are circumstances make it difficult, we wouldn't use the money. Is that what you're saying, Sean?
Well, I was gonna say maybe go mid what's that 550? Go like maybe make it like 3950, or just like maybe like, or just 4 even. I don't know.
Okay. To me, these I got to change my perspective on budget because I handle a budget for our company. And so, it's like $50 million. So it's throwing me off I'd be fine with that. Let's do that.
That's on the conferences line item.
I'm sorry?
I had a question for Betsy on the conferences.
Oh,
line
yeah,
item.
ask it.
Is that meant to cover commission members or town staff? Oh, you're silent. I don't hear you, Betsy.
Sorry. Either one. In the past few years, obviously, there have not been any conferences.
Because, I mean, the one conference I went to, I can't remember if I went on behalf of EDC or my own work. It wasn't that much money. Is it unreasonable to ask committee members to pay their own way to conferences? And if it's a staff person like you from town hall, there could possibly be other sources of conference funding. Wouldn't there?
Potentially. I mean, depending on the cost. Yeah.
So I just think we can knock the $100 off for the conference budget line item, but that's just my opinion.
Okay.
And the meeting supplies, I mean, how horrible is it to ask attendees to, pay for their own? Because the meeting supplies is paying for, I'm assuming, for food and stuff at some of these events.
It is. And the other thing to keep in mind is that the description of what the objects are not always kind of exactly what they're budgeted for. So although this says meeting supplies, I'm thinking of it as meetings and events. So if you wanted to do events to draw the public into the business district, that's what I was thinking of more than, snacks or a happy hour or something like that. But it there's enough leeway that it could also be providing snacks if there was a meeting at dinner time, like if we did several more happy hours.
So it could be like renting a small tent or chairs if we needed to. Okay. I mean, I think that we got to think about sponsorship opportunities too if we start having events to get.
Yeah. This budget is very, very small, right, as a whole. So if we're going to do anything of significance, we'd have to figure out other ways to pay for it anyway.
Yeah.
Betsy, ballpark, like how much did we spend on the supplies for the happy hour at NEBCO earlier in November?
I think I spent like $40, and I bet I have $20 worth of snacks left in my cupboard at the office.
Okay. All right. So, okay, gotcha. I mean, I think that's, something like that line item is something that's, probably worth, having funding for, because, that's, you're face to face with the local business folks and trying to, move the needle. So, I don't know. I mean, yeah, big picture, this is a very small budget, but, I was just saying, from, all of the focus and attention and debate about, town budget, it's all, it's a sensitive topic. So,
hearing all that, why don't we simply ask for exactly what we got last year and go from there?
Yeah.
That way we're in keeping with the goal that's been requested, even though I appreciate Betsy trying to help us out a little bit. I'm hearing enough, from you all that it doesn't sound like you're really comfortable increasing something right now. So let's do that. Can we just say we're going to go with last year's number and leave it at that?
Yeah.
Great.
Certainly.
Everybody okay with that? I mean, we're not voting. I know. I wish we could kind of settle it that way.
Yeah, that sounds fine to me.
Okay. All right, great. So now we're talking more about 2022 goals. I can't remember I'm actually going to look at the notes. So Cleo was here. and Scott, but not Sean, right? So Sean, Betsy in her summary of the notes kind of shared some of the things that we were expressing interest in pursuing that came out of discussion of the 2015 Conservation and Development Plan.
Okay.
A little blurb. You know, there are really like 4 points so far that we kind of came to on a tentative, you know, goal ideas for our future, summarized by Betsy in that brief statement.
Mhm.
So we were going to build on that tonight by looking at the Yale one and seeing if there are other items we want to pull out and put into this potential goal list. Given that we've got, though, you know, only a small group tonight, do you want to do that tonight? And I'm asking everybody, or do you want to defer that to January when we'll hopefully have a larger group here? Ask each of you to tell me what you think.
I think we should defer it, but there needs to be a check-in with people before the meeting to make sure that they're actually doing the homework.
Right, I agree. Okay, personally, that's where I am too. I just think it'd be more meaningful. So it might even be that we resend, you know, the plan and maybe my summary with a, please come prepared to discuss, you know, for next time.
Yeah.
Sean or Scott, what do you guys think about that?
I agree.
Okay.
I think we should have the full group.
Okay.
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Yeah, same here.
Sean, you too? All right, so
Yeah.
then I'd like to defer that discussion till next time. And maybe, like I said, we'll pre the meeting, you know, we could re-email out maybe the summary thing and say, here's this thing, here's what we're really going to be discussing, so that we can see if we want to, what we want to incorporate into this sort of goal package. Okay, great. The next item would be to discuss in-person meetings. We did that last time, but there was a request to kind of revisit that. But I'm not sure there's a point now, right? Since we've been told don't.
Right.
So we're going to pass on that one because there would be nothing to vote on anyway, since we don't have a quorum, and we're going to stay virtual for the time being. All good?
Yeah.
And then finally, updates and announcements. Does anybody have updates or announcements to share?
I just have a couple. On Monday, the Housing Opportunity Study Group is hosting a public information forum about the plan they've been tasked with in creating. They are working on creating a affordable housing plan for the town. Each town is required to have one and submit it to the state by June 1. So they'll be presenting along with a well-known housing consultant to talk about the plan and best practices, kind of share out what they've learned, and I would assume also to take feedback from the public that will help them in creating their plan. And then also tonight is the first of 2 capital budget hearings that the boards of finance and selectmen are hearing, and the second one is on Tuesday. So those will be recorded and broadcast. So if you missed it this evening, you'd be able to watch a recording of it later. And then the operating budget hearings are late January, and I believe that goes into early February as well.
Great. Yeah, I'm hoping to attend the housing one is Monday at the Jewish Community Center, right?
It's now virtual, but yes, Monday.
Oh, it's virtual. Oh, I thought it was in person. Okay. Oh, I guess it has to be now. Right, right.
Yeah.
So will we find a link on the town website? Like, how would I?
Yes,
how would I
there's a link on the homepage, and there's also a link on the event listing on the town calendar.
Oh, fantastic! Because I do plan to, you know, attend that personally. That looked really interesting. Great.
Betsy, what's the difference between the meeting on the 6th and the meeting that was scheduled for last night?
Oh, so the meeting last night was their regular monthly meeting. And of course, the public is welcome to any board or commission public meetings. But the meeting, I guess I shouldn't call it a meeting, the forum that they're holding on Monday is really less to discuss business and more to educate and hear from the public.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Here, my phone has stopped ringing. Thank goodness. Okay.
I mean, I have a question. Betsy, I mean, did you receive any sort of, any sort of follow-ups from the folks that we met with at the happy hour? Anything out of the conversations we had, and any updates along that line?
Yeah, so I did have some people reach out asking about Small Business Saturday, Black Friday, Artist Sunday type thing. So I reached out to the business community and I really only heard back from 3 or 4 businesses. So I put a really short list together and tried to get the word out, but I'm sure it was far from comprehensive. And the other thing, I'm glad you asked, Sean, is that Katie Poole, the executive director from Massaro Community Farm, called me the other day to let me know this is still very exploratory, but they're looking at a piece of property across the street from them. It's actually in Ansonia, and it's a vacant building, and they're going to be touring it soon. But they're thinking of ways to use it to the benefit of the community, and it would be they'd need to partner probably with multiple organizations to make it feasible, but based on the meeting, the happy hour meeting, one of the things she was thinking about is the feasibility of co-working space, among many other options based on the the financial viability of everything. But it's certainly something that I think people are talking about now is co-working.
Yeah, that generated a lot of buzz. There was a
Yeah.
lot of conversation around that. I'm looking at the map. Is it that I mean, I've driven by it a bunch of times. Is it that it almost looks like it was,
think it may have been
it
assisted
was like a
living.
multi-unit kind of building. I don't know if it was like a senior home or something like that.
I think that's what it was. Yeah, and it's been vacant for quite a long time.
Okay.
So it may not be in good shape. It may be more expensive than possible to bring it up to speed, but it's something that they're exploring.
And did you say it's technically in Ansonia, or is it?
Yeah, because it's on the west. It's on the west side of Ford Road, so that's Ansonia for sure. Yeah. Yeah, I drive by it when I bring my kids to the Ansonia Nature Center. So, yeah. Yeah, used to have windows, and now there's plywood where there were windows. So
Yeah.
that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, thank you. So Betsy, anything else for us to do tonight since we can't approve anything? We just have to defer all those approvals to next time, basically?
Yeah, I think that's it. And you're certainly obviously welcome to discuss anything else that's on the agenda, but there's nothing that says that you have to.
Yeah, the only thing I've really out there that's beyond, I mean, and then does anybody have any comments on the meeting dates? They look fine to me. I mean, they're basically the second Thursday of every month, right? So
And I did not see any conflicts with holidays or anything
Okay.
that I could come up with.
Okay. So how about we adjourn early tonight, but plan on going through the Yale plan data next time, and hopefully we'll all be prepped to have a chat and get our list together.
Yeah, maybe like a week ahead of time. Can we actually? I mean, I know Betsy, you're awesome about sending out the communications and the emails, but let's I mean, if we could like really get a show of hands like a week ahead of time to make sure that we're gonna have a quorum, and that we are make sure we review the material, then we can really come in well prepared and have enough people.
Yeah, I'll put a reminder on my calendar.
Great, thank you. That's super. Appreciate it.
All right. I guess
Okay.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that motion.
We can't officially, so.
We can't do anything anyway, can we?
Oh, true. Yeah. Yeah. All right. All right. See you later, guys.
All right. Have a good evening, everybody.
All right. Take care.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.